Okay. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. So this afternoon, we are going to discuss another topic under Forensic 7. So the concentration of the discussion of the topics for this afternoon's discussion is about the evolution of firearms. So last meeting, we were able to discuss the remaining three branches of ballistics: the exterior ballistics, the terminal ballistics, and the forensic ballistics. Now we are going to discuss on this topic, the evolution of firearms. So we are going to talk about firearms. Okay. So I'm going to present first the objectives for the topics that are going to be discussed this afternoon. So number one, value the contributions of the different persons behind firearms. Number two, articulate the important dates in the firearms history and evaluate the nature and classification of firearms. So let us start with the evolution of firearms. So there are persons involved behind firearms. Okay, and one of these person is John M. Browning. Okay, who is John M. Browning? Wizard of the modern firearms and pioneered the breech-loading single-shot rifle that was adopted by Winchester. So he pioneered the so-called breech-loading single-shot rifle. So meaning to say that the single-shot rifle, for every shot, for every fire of the firearm, one shot. So single-shot rifle. So it means that when you are going to fire, after firing, you are going to load another ammunition for firing. So in single-shot rifle, for every firing, one load, for next firing, another load. Okay, so John Browning, the wizard of the modern firearms, and pioneered the breech-loading single-shot rifle that was adopted by Winchester. Another is Samuel Colt. Who is Samuel Colt? Patented the first practical revolver and maker of the Colt Peacemaker, one of the most famous revolvers in history. So he patented the first practical revolver. When we talk about revolver, it is a type of handgun that has a revolving cylinder, serves as the magazine. Alexander John Forsyth. Who is Alexander John Forsyth? He was considered as the father of percussion powder. He successfully invented the priming mixture and caused the integration of the primer, bullet, gunpowder, and shell into one unit. So, being the father of the percussion powder, he invented the priming mixture. So, this priming mixture is one of the parts of the primer in an ammunition. So, the priming mixture that caused the integration of the primer, bullet, gunpowder, and shell into one unit. So, this priming mixture, which is integrated into the primer, because the primer composed of the so-called priming mixture until the dust and the primer cap. So this was invented by Alexander John Forsyth. Major Usergal, an Israeli army who designed the Uzi firearm. So in the year 1950. So this is the what we call illustration of the Uzi firearm, which was designed by Major Usergal. Colonel Calvin Goddard, the father of modern ballistics, is the man who first utilized the bullet comparison microscope to prove the identity of a fired bullet through comparison with a test bullet. So he was the first to use the bullet comparison microscope. What is this bullet comparison microscope? It is a microscope that used to examine the fired bullet, which is recovered at the crime scene, with that of the test bullet of the suspected firearm. Okay, the instrument used by Colonel Calvin H. Goddard is the bullet comparison microscope, comparing the fired bullet with that of the test bullet. Another is John C. Garand. John C. Garand designed and invented the semi-automatic U.S. rifle caliber 30 in 1 Garand. So he designed and he also designed and invented this so-called U.S. rifle caliber 30 in 1 Garand. It was designed and invented by John C. Garand. George Hyde,
A well-known expert in the field of SMG. What is SMG? Submachine gun, which is also called as or known as grease gun and developed in 1941. So he was known as the expert in this field, submachine gun. And it was developed in 1941, the M3A1 USA. Michael Kalashnikov. Who is Michael Kalashnikov? So, who designed the AK-47? Michael Kalashnikov, who designed the AK-47, or AK stands for Automat Kalashnikov, adopted by the Russian army in the year 1951. Another is George Luger, designed the Luger MP-08 Germany. So he designed a firearm, the Luger firearm MP-08 in Germany. John Wolf Marlin. Who is John Wolf Marlin? The founder of the Marlin Firearms Company. So the founder or the owner of the firearms company, John Wolf Marlin, founder of the Marlin Firearms Company that manufactures firearms. Another, Peter Paul Mauser. Who is Peter Paul Mauser? Invented, designed the Mauser in 1912 Germany. So he invented and designed the Mauser firearm in 1912 Germany. James Wolfe Rifle. Who is James Wolfe Rifle? He stimulated the development of the model 1855 rifle musket. He developed this model 1855 rifle musket. Eliphalet Remington. Who is Eliphalet Remington? One of the early rifle makers. The makers of rifle, early rifle makers. So this rifle, this is a type of firearm that can be fired from the shoulder, and this is called shoulder arm. Elisha Kingroth. Who is Elisha Kingroth? Designed the machinery for making of firearms. So Elisha Kingroth, who designed the machinery, the machine that manufactures all firearms. Horace Smith founded the great firm Smith and Wesson and pioneered the making of breech-loading rifles. So Horace Smith, who founded the great firm Smith and Wesson firearm, Smith and Wesson revolver, Smith and Wesson pistol. Eugene Stoner. Who is Eugene Stoner? Who designed also the US M16 Armalite under license by Colt Company from July 1959 onward. So he designed the M16, the US M16 Armalite rifle, under license by the Colt Company from July 1959 onwards. L.C. Smith developed the shotgun bearing his name and is now known as Ithaca Gun Company. He developed the shotgun that bears his own name and which is now known as the Ithaca Gun Company, the manufacturer of shotgun. John T. Thompson. Who is John T. Thompson? John T. Thompson developed in the course of World War I, WW1 or World War I, the Thompson M1 A1 and the 1928 model of A1 USA. He pioneered also the making of the Thompson submachine gun. That was John Thompson. Daniel B. Wilson. Who is Daniel B. Wilson? The partner of Horace Smith in the making of the famous revolver bearing their names. Okay, the partner of Smith. That's why the Smith and Wilson firearm. So Daniel Wilson, who is the partner or the partner of Horace Smith in the making of the famous revolver that bears their name. This is revolver. The Smith and Wesson revolver. Why do you call that revolver? Because of that revolving cylinder that served as the magazine. David Carbine Williams. Who is this David Carbine Williams? The maker of the first known carbine. So the carbine firearm, the barrel is not longer than 22 inches. The maker of the first known carbine. Oliver F. Winchester, one of the earliest rifle and pistol makers. So aside from the maker of rifle, he was also maker of pistols. So those are the persons, the important persons behind firearms. Let us now move on to the important dates in the development of firearms. So there are important dates such as 1242 AD. Roger Bacon published. So Roger Bacon made a publication entitled De Mirabili Potestate Artis et Natura, or in English, On the Marvelous Power of Arts and Nature, which noted the black powder formula. Because of his publication, he noted on this formula, the black powder formula. Okay. Next is 1200, Roman candle. A hollow tube strengthened with wire or shrunken rawhide and loaded with alternate charges of powder and balls of tallow wrapped in cloth. It is ignited at the muzzle. It is said that Chinese used the Roman candle as early as the mid-1200s. So it is ignited at the muzzle. It is placed at the muzzle, at the tip of the gun, the barrel of the gun, the muzzle. It is ignited at the muzzle. It is said that Chinese used Roman candle as early as the mid-1200s. Another year, 1326 AD, the oldest authenticated illustration of gunpowder used to fire projectile in cannons was demonstrated in Walter de Millimeter's manuscript. So, the illustration of gunpowder, because the gunpowder used to fire or propel a projectile in cannon. So, in the same period, the metrical life of Robert the Bruce by John Barbour also indicates the use of cannon by Edward III at Crecy, although this is not a completely authenticated. So this was made on illustrations of the gunpowder. Used to propel the projectile in cannons. 1343 AD. Cannon locks were used in the military as depicted in Italian frescoes by Neri. Then 1390, Codex Germanicus 600 translate direction for preparation of the gunpowder. So, they translate how to prepare the gunpowder, the direction for preparation of gunpowder. This provides also, aside from directing the preparation of the gunpowder, this provides also the instruction on how to load the gun and discharge them. 1450, evolution of matchlock ignition. 1450 to 1500, the serpentine lock was used to modify the conventional matchlock. So this serpentine lock was used to modify or change the conventional matchlock using the E-ship instead of C-ship piece with a bottom portion serving the trigger. So the C-ship now was changed, was modified into E-ship. 1469, a drawing from English manuscript shows a rebodied drum, a multi-charge cannon lock weapon. So the drawing from English manuscript, based on drawing, that shows rebodied drum, which is called a multi-charge cannon lock weapon. 1498, more improved riflings and sights were introduced and breech loaders were attempted, although they never succeeded. Nevertheless, even multi-shot arms did not also succeed due to absence of the good ignition system. So they improved riflings and sights. They introduced this, but they never succeeded. They never succeed on this. 1500s, the development of wheel lock, which operates in the same principle as the modern-day cigarette lighter. In the mid-1500s, snap house was developed. 1575, paper cartridge was developed. Ball and powder charts were wrapped in chemically treated paper to allow the carrying of numerous premature charges or pre-loaded rounds. So this paper cartridge was developed. And this is very true in shotgun ammunition. 1570, the development of breech loading firearms leading to the making of the Ferguson rifle of Major Patrick Ferguson. The development of Collie rifle, which is a flintlock repeating rifle, operated on a revolving principle, and as well as the Hall rifle patented in 1811 by Colonel John Hall and was the first breech loader adopted by the U.S. Army. Okay, so they developed this kind of firearm, breech loading firearm, leads to the what they call this, the development of this kind of firearm. 1805, the percussion system. Alexander John Forsyth. So we know that Alexander John Forsyth was considered as the father of percussion system. So Alexander John Forsyth discovered a compound that would ignite when it is blown, thus igniting the powder charge. Because the Alexander John Forsyth developed the priming mixture. So Alexander John Forsyth discovered a compound that would ignite when it is blown, thus igniting the powder charge, referring this to the gunpowder. In 1840, it replaced the flintlock ignition and was adopted in 1838 by British and in 1842 by the Americans. 1835, the first real cartridge was developed. So this was developed, the first real cartridge was developed, the Bluebird Cup. So we call this the Bluebird Cup, same as the or bullet breech, and was considered the forerunner of the caliber 22 cartridge. So this is only developed, the first real cartridge developed the caliber 22 cartridge. 1835, Samuel Colt patented the first practical revolver and marketed in 1872. It is a breech loading revolver. So Samuel Colt patented the practical revolver and sold to the market in 1872. 1836, the pinfire cartridge was developed by Lefaucheux. A much real pinfire cartridge was also developed in the same year by Collier. So this pinfire cartridge, now at present, it is obsolete, meaning not anymore in use. What is available at present is the rimfire cartridge and the center fire cartridge. So this pinfire cartridge, which was developed by Lefaucheux, is now obsolete. It is not anymore in use. In 1845, rimfire cartridge. Bluebird developed the BB or bullet breech cap, which was considered as the forerunner of the caliber 22 cartridge. So this rimfire cartridge, that's right, the caliber 22 cartridge, when this is fired, the striking of the firing pin strikes at the rim portion of the cartridge, not at the center portion, because this is rimfire. The caliber 22 is rimfire cartridge. The striking of the firing pin strikes at the rim portion of the cartridge, not at the middle, not at the center of the primer, because this is rimfire cartridge. And this is only exclusive for caliber 22 cartridge. So in the same year, New Havens Arm Company, owned by Oliver F. Winchester, through the effort of Tyler Henry, developed the caliber 44 rimfire cartridge for the Henry's rifle. So aside from the caliber 22, the caliber 44 ammunition for rimfire cartridge for the Henry rifle. Aside from the caliber 22 rimfire cartridge, there is also caliber 44 rimfire cartridge for the Henry rifle. In 1846, the smokeless powder was discovered. So that was in 1846, the smokeless powder. So this smokeless powder, one of the types of gunpowder. We know for a fact that there are two types of gunpowder, the black powder and the smokeless powder. This smokeless powder was discovered in 1846. It was used first in shotgun. So this was used first in shotgun by 1864. In year 1865, Captain Schulz of the Prussian Army, and in rifle by the year 1884 by Intel of France. So originally, the smokeless powder was used in shotgun and later on used in rifle as well as at present pistol. 1857. The first patent of the center fire cartridge was issued in France. The Snyder conversation and the Morse cartridge were also developed. So the center fire cartridge. So talking about the center fire cartridge, so meaning to say that the firing pin strike at the center of the primer. You know, the caliber 45, caliber 38, Super 38, M16 ammunition, they are called center fire cartridge, except caliber 22. So the striking of the firing pin strikes at the center of the primer, and this is called center fire cartridge. In that year, 1857, the first patent on a center fire cartridge was issued in France. The Snyder conversation, the Morse cartridge was also developed. 1873, Colt Peacemaker, model 1873, the caliber 44. the most famous revolver in history and legend was manufactured. So the Colt Peacemaker, the caliber involved is caliber 44, model 1873. 1884, Hiram Maxim developed the first fully automatic machine gun. So that was in 1884 that Hiram Maxim developed or improved the first fully automatic machine gun. 1937, M1 Garand was adopted by the American. Okay, so this was invented by John C. Garand. It was adopted by the Americans in 1937. 1960. Bill Ruger produced his Ruger single shot, which was followed by Clerk's design and Christian Sharp dropping block system, one of the earliest and most successful of the breech-loading design. The Christian Sharp's design is where the term sharpshooters was derived. So, if you encounter the term sharpshooters, this was originated from Christian Sharp design. Okay, so in 1960, Bill Ruger produced his Ruger single shot, which was followed by Clerk's design and Christian Sharp dropping block system, one of the earliest and most successful of the breech-loading design. And the Christian Sharp design is where the term sharpshooter was derived. So those are the important dates in the firearms history. Let us now move on the nature and classification of firearms. So let us now going to discuss on the legal definition of firearms. Actually, there are two definitions of firearms, legal definition as well as the technical definition. So let us start now with a so-called legal definition of firearms. So this is legal definition. This is based on the provisions of the law. The legal definition. So what is the legal definition of firearms? So firearms or arms as here in use includes rifles, rifles, muskets, carbines, shotguns, pistols, revolvers, and all other deadly weapons from which a bullet, bullshot, shell, or other missile may be discharged by means of gunpowder or other explosive. So this is the definition, the legal definition of firearm. So they say that firearms or arms as in use includes rifles. Talking about rifles, these are shoulder arms. This can be fired from the shoulder, such as M16 arbalete rifle, AK-47, Garand, these are rifles. Muskets. The smoke, the military use muskets, these are firearms that has no lance and grooves inside the barrel. The carbines, shotguns, the pistols, revolvers. Talking about the pistols, like for example, caliber 45. Super 30, these are pistols. Revolvers. There are revolvers caliber 22, caliber 38, 357. That has revolving cylinder. So, and all other deadly weapons from which a bullet, bullshot, shell, or other missiles may be discharged by means of gunpowder or other explosives. So, meaning these types of weapons mentioned that propel the bullet, okay, for rifles, pistols, ball or shot for shotguns, shell or other missiles may be discharged. So these missiles, these are projectiles propelled from artillery firearms. So the artillery firearms that propel projectile more than 1 inch in diameter, and this is called missile. Not anymore bullet, not anymore shots, but missiles propelled from artillery firearms. So these weapons from which a bullet, bullshot, shell, or other missile may be discharged by means of gunpowder or other explosives. So this can be propelled. This can be discharged using gunpowder because the projectiles cannot be propelled without the gunpowder. Because the projectile can be propelled by the use of the gunpowder, by the expansive force of gases coming from the burning gunpowder. And this includes also air rifles. So aside from the firearms, weapons mentioned, air rifles, except of small caliber, which are limited range, used as toys, which are not included. The barrel of any firearm shall be considered a complete firearm for all purposes. So the barrel, so even though there is no grip, there is no only barrel is considered as complete firearm. In short, if you are in possession of the barrel of a gun, you can be charged for illegal possession of firearm. Why? Because barrel is considered as a complete firearm. In the new law, aside from the barrel which is considered as a complete firearm, the frame or receiver is also included. So, aside from the barrel, the frame or receiver is also considered as the complete firearm. And this definition is taken from Section 877 of the Revised Administrative Code as well as Section 219 of the National Internal Revenue Code. So in this provisions of law, barrel is considered, of any firearm is considered a firearm for all purposes. There is a new law that includes also the frame or receiver considered as firearm. If you are in possession of the frame or receiver of a firearm, is considered as a complete firearm, aside from the barrel. Next is the technical definition. So this technical definition is the real definition of firearm. What is this technical definition of firearm? It's an instrument used for the propulsion of projectile by means of the expansive force of gases coming from the burning gunpowder. So this is the real definition. The legal definition of a firearm is more of an enumeration rather than a definition, because that enumerates the different types of firearms which is propelled by gunpowder. But the technical definition is this is the real definition of firearm, which is an instrument used for the propulsion of projectile. This is an instrument used to propel a projectile or a bullet or shots by means of the expansive force of gases coming from the burning gunpowder. So this is the definition. Instrument used for the propulsion of projectile by means of the expansive force of gases coming from the burning gunpowder. And this definition was taken from the FBI Manual of Firearms Identification. There are two classification of firearms. Actually, there are two general classification of firearms. And what are the two general classification of firearms? These are according to interior barrel construction and according to the caliber of the projectile propelled. Talking about interior barrels, I mean, the focus of this is the interior portion or the inside portion of the barrel, according to interior barrel construction and according to the caliber of the projectile propelled. One of these is the according to interior barrel construction. This can be classified into smoothbore firearms and rifle bore firearms. So what's now the difference between the two? Why is this is called smoothbore firearms and the other is called a rifle bore firearm? So what is this rifle bore smoothbore firearm? Firearms that have no riflings. It means that there is no lance and grooves inside the barrel of the gun. Smoothbore, in short, the barrel of the gun which has no lance and grooves is plain. There is no lance and grooves. Examples: shotguns and muskets. So the barrel of the shotguns and muskets are plain. There is no lance and grooves, and therefore this is classified as smoothbore firearms. Next, rifle bore firearm. So what is this rifle bore firearm? Why this rifle bore firearm differ from smoothbore firearm? So the rifle bore firearms that have riflings inside their gun barrel. So meaning there are lance and grooves inside the gun barrel. We call this rifle bore firearm. What are examples of the rifle bore firearms, such as pistols, revolvers, and other modern weapons, except shotgun and muskets? There are lance and grooves inside the gun barrel. If the barrel of the gun has lance and grooves, this is classified as rifle bore firearm. Next is according to caliber of the projectile propelled. These are classified into artillery and small arms. What is this artillery? So the artillery refers to those types of firearms that propel projectile with more than 1 inch in diameter. So if the projectile is what we call is propelled is more than 1 inch in diameter, this is called artillery firearms. So refers to types of firearms that propels projectile with more than 1 inch in diameter, such as example, cannons, mortars, bazookas. The projectiles of cannons, mortars, bazookas are more than 1 inch in diameter. Therefore, this can be classified as artillery. Next is the small arms. What is the small arm? So these are firearms that propel a projectile with less than 1 inch diameter, and it can be handled, moved, and operated by one man. Such as machine guns, shoulder arms, and handguns. These are small arms. The projectile of this is less than 1 inch in diameter. So these firearms that propel projectile less than 1 inch diameter, and it can be handled, moved, and operated by one man. Machine guns, shoulder arms, handguns. For small arms, one of that is machine gun. So what is a machine gun? A machine gun is a type of firearm that is primarily designed for military use. This is used in the military, designed for use in the military. Investigation involving shooting cases in cities really find this type of firearm having been used. Have you heard? A robber using machine gun? So investigation involving shooting cases in cities really find this type of firearms having been used. It can be grouped into 3 general types: recoil operated, gas operated, then combined recoil and gas operated action. This is for the machine gun. Recoil operated, gas operated, then the combination of the two: recoil and gas operated. So aside from the machine gun, there is also another gun which is called submachine gun. Machine gun is bigger than a submachine gun. So what is this submachine gun? Submachine gun is a light portable form of machine gun utilizing a pistol-sized ammunition having a shoulder stock that may or may not be folded and designed to be fired with both hands. So this is submachine gun. Smaller than a machine gun, but still a machine gun, but submachine gun, a light portable form of machine gun utilizing pistol-sized ammunition, meaning the ammunition for this is the same size of pistol ammunition, having a shoulder stock that may or may not be folded and designed to be fired with both hands. So this can be fired, designed to fire in both hands. Basically, there are 2 types of firearms according to its mechanism. One has bolt operated by trigger circle causing the cartridge to be fired in open bolt, and the other is fired with a closed bolt position. So in short, the submachine gun can either be fired in open bolt and closed bolt position. Aside from the machine gun, the shoulder arm. So what is the shoulder arm? Shoulder arms are those types of firearms that were normally fired from the shoulder, such as rifles and shotguns. So shoulder arm, rifle, shotgun, this can be fired from the shoulder. Therefore, this is called shoulder arm. So the shoulder arm, one of these rifle. So this rifle, a shoulder weapon designed to fire a projectile with more accuracy through a long rifle bore barrel, usually more than 22 inches. So this shoulder weapon, this can be fired from the shoulder, and this is called shoulder arm, such as the rifle. So this can be fired through the barrel, rifle bore barrel. So meaning to say the rifle, the inside structure of the barrel has lands and grooves. These rifles usually more than 22 inches. Rifle, the barrel of the rifle is more than 22 inches because the carbine is, the barrel of the carbine is only not longer than 22 inches. If longer than 4 or 22 inches, that's rifle. So this can be further divided into bolt action type, lever type, slide action type, and automatic type. Another type of rifle is automatic type. So another type of rifle is automatic. It is a type of rifle in which firing can be made continuously. That is why we call that automatic, because this can be fired continuously by a single press of the trigger. And while the trigger is pressed, this is very true in Armalite rifle. If you are going to set that into full automatic, so once piece of the trigger, several bullets that will come out from the muzzle of the gun. So it's a type of rifle in which firing can be made continuously by a single press of the trigger, and while the trigger is pressed, firing will only stop by the action of the gunner. So this can be stopped by the action of the one who fired the gun, the gunner, or the one who fired his gun, or when all the cartridges have been consumed. That's the time it stopped the firing. So firing will only stop either by the action of the gunner or when all the cartridges have been used. This is for automatic type. Another is carbine, a short barrel rifle. So the barrel of this is short for a carbine. So short barrel rifle with its barrel measuring not longer than 22 inches. The barrel of the carbine is not longer, that measures not longer than 22 inches. But for rifles, the barrel of the rifle is more than 22 inches. But for the carbine, the barrel measuring not longer than 22. So meaning the barrel of the carbine is up only to 22 inches, not longer than 22 inches. It fires a single projectile through a rifle bore, either semi-automatic or full automatic for every press of the trigger. Another is the muskets. It is an ancient smoothbore and muzzle-loading military shoulder arms designed to fire shots or single round lead ball. So this musket, the ancient smoothbore firearm used by the military, ancient, but at present this is not anymore in use. It is an ancient smoothbore and muzzle-loading military shoulder arms designed to fire shots or single round lead ball. There are three types of muskets, such as the flintlock, matchlock, and the wheel lock. And this musket was considered as ancient firearm. Ancient smoothbore. Why smoothbore? Because there is no lance and probes inside the barrel of this firearm, the musket. Then shotgun. Why this shotgun differs from a musket? Both of them are smoothbore barrel. The barrel of this shotgun and muskets are smooth. There is no lance and grooves. Shotgun bore is a shotgun, a smoothbore and breech-loading shoulder arms designed for a number of lead pellets or shot in one charge. That is why if you are going to use shotgun, if you are going to fire your gun, shotgun, there are several pellets that will come out from the barrel of the gun. Unlike in rifle, the bullet will come out from the barrel. For every shot, one bullet. But for shotgun, one shot, there's several pellets that will come out from the barrel of the gun. Okay? So, the same, this shotgun is a smoothbore shotgun. Smoothbore, the internal structure of the barrel is smoothbore. There is no lance and grooves. The shotgun operates almost exactly in the same way as other rifles, because the shotgun is also a rifle. This can operate exactly in the same way as other rifle. It only differs in some extent, such as the interior barrel construction. So the interior barrel construction, because there is no lance and grooves inside the barrel, it differs only in the interior barrel construction. But the operation is almost the same with rifles. Generally, all shotguns are equipped with smoothbore barrels designed to fire a number of lead pellets in a single charge. So in one firing of this shotgun, there are several pellets, number of lead pellets in single charge. This type of firearm also appears in various mechanism types, and they are as follows: single-barreled shotgun. Talking about single-barreled, it's very clear that the barrel is only one single-barreled shotgun. Another is double-barreled shotgun. So meaning to say that the shotgun has two barrels. So the barrel of the shotgun either top over bottom, or they are what we call this, the barrel is in two ways, top over bottom, or they are side-by-side barrel. The position is side-by-side or top over bottom for double barrel shotgun. Pump action shotgun. So this pump action shotgun, for every shot you are going to pump just like you are pumping. Pump action shotgun. For every shot you are pumping. Pump action shotgun. Then auto-loading shotgun, this is for automatic shotgun. Auto-loading. When you squeeze another squeeze, another fire of the gun. Auto-loading shotgun. Automatic loading. Next is the shotgun bore construction. So with regards to the construction of the bore or the internal structure of the barrel, so the shotgun bore construction can either be cylinder bore type, choke bore type, and paradox shotgun. So what is this cylinder bore type? So a cylinder bore type, referring this to the internal structure of the barrel of the shotgun, a type of shotgun bore with the same diameter throughout the barrel. So meaning to say that the barrel from the breech end to the muzzle end, the diameter, the circumference of the barrel are the same. From the breech end to the muzzle end, the bore diameter is the same. That is cylinder bore type, a type of shotgun bore with the same diameter throughout the barrel. How about the choke bore type? The choke bore type is different. A type of shotgun bore with diminishing or reducing bore diameter towards the muzzle. So meaning to say that in going to the muzzle, the bore of the shotgun is reducing. It means to say that the diameter of the barrel is not the same, unlike in cylinder bore type. The choke bore type, the diameter of the barrel is not the same. That is why a type of shotgun bore with diminishing or reducing bore diameters towards the muzzle, it reduces the diameter. It therefore is not the same. It is designed. So what's the purpose for this? Why this bore diameter is diminishing or reducing towards the muzzle? Because it is designed to limit the spread of the shots or making the shots travel longer before the spread. Then the third is the paradox shotgun. So what is this paradox? A very rare type of shotgun bore, having a rifling only a few inches from its muzzle point. So this paradox shotgun is a very rare type of shotgun. Why? Because there are riflings. Talking about riflings, there are lines and groups. A few inches from the muzzle point, few inches from the tip of the barrel of the shotgun. There are lines and groups. That's why this is a very rare type of shotgun bore, having a rifling only a few inches from its muzzle point. Okay. Next, let us move to the handguns. We are through with the machine guns, we are through with the shoulder arms. Now, let us move to handguns. So what is this handgun all about? So these types of firearms are designed or intended to be fired using one hand, such as the pistols and revolvers. You can fire a pistol with two hands. You can fire the pistols either left or right hand. Just like also revolvers. So these pistols and revolvers, we call this handguns. The types of firearms that designed or intended to be fired using one hand, such as pistols and revolver. So, what is now the difference between pistol and revolver? Pistol, in early firearm history, based on the history of firearm, all handguns are generally called as pistols. In the early firearm history, all handguns generally called as pistols. There were three classes during that time. Classes of pistols during that time, such as the single-shot pistol, the semi-automatic pistol, and the revolving pistol, now known as revolver. But in the early firearms history, there are only three classes of pistols: single-shot pistol, semi-automatic pistol, and the revolving pistol, which is now called revolver. So the single-shot pistol, one shot, then unload, then load, then fire. Single shot. But the semi-automatic, when you load the magazine, you can continuously fire after consuming all the so-called the ammunition. The revolving cylinder, the revolving pistol, which is now called revolver. What is this revolver? You know, the pistols as magazine. There is no cylinder. In the revolver, this is a type of a hand firearm designed to position cartridges into position for firing with the aid of the rotating cylinder serving as its chamber. That's why the revolver, it has a revolving cylinder, serve as the magazine. Huh? The ammunition is going to be placed inside the revolving cylinder. Huh? Some revolvers has 5 rounds, 5 holes, means 5 rounds is going to be placed. Common is 6 rounds. Okay? So there are 2 types of, so the revolver is a type of hand firearm designed to position cartridges to position for firing with the aid of a rotating cylinder serving as its chamber. And there are 2 types of revolvers according to its mechanical firing action. So there are 2 types of revolver according to mechanical firing action. These are single action and double action. Why is this called single action? Why is this called double action? Okay. So there are 2 types of revolvers according to mechanical firing action. They are as follows: single action and double action. What is this single action? Why do we call this single action? So single action is a type of revolver that needs manual cocking of the hammer before squeezing the trigger. What does it mean? That a revolver, if you put that in single action, meaning you are going to cock first the revolver, then fire. You cock first the revolver, then fire. That is single action. A type of revolver that needs manual cocking of the hammer before squeezing the target trigger, meaning before you are going to fire, you are going to cock first the revolver. And this is called single action. How about the double action? So the double action is a type of revolver that does not need manual cocking. So the double action meaning to say that when you fire the revolver in double action, do not cock the revolver. Directly squeeze the trigger, and this is called double action. A type of revolver does not need manual cocking. The gunner or the firer just presses the trigger, and it both cock and releases the hammer, causing a much faster firing. So in short, the double action, you do not need to cock. You can directly squeeze the trigger. In the single action, before you are going to squeeze the trigger, you are going to fire that revolver, you are going to cock first the revolver. In double action, no need for you to cock the revolver. Directly squeeze the trigger and fire. Okay? So, those are the types of revolvers according to mechanical firing action. The single action does not need manual cocking. You need to cock the revolver. Then double action that does not need manual cocking. There are types of firearms according to mechanical construction, such as single-shot firearms, repeating arms, automatic firearms, slide action type, bolt action type, lever type, or brick type. So the single-shot firearms, this kind of firearm, when you fire, load, shot, then unload, then load, then fire. Unload, load, and fire. That's single action or single shot firearm. Repeating arms, when you insert the ammunition into the magazine, you can continuously fire that gun into semi-automatic or full automatic. So repeating arms, you can continuously squeeze the trigger. For example, in M16 Armalite rifle, if you are going to set that to full automatic, so it means one squeeze of the trigger, several bullets will come out. If you set that to semi-automatic, one squeeze, one fire, one squeeze, one fire. Whereas if this is put into automatic, one squeeze, several bullets will come out. So that's repeating arms or applicable only for automatic firearms. So if this is set to full automatic, one squeeze, several bullets will come out. If you are going to set that in semi-automatic, one squeeze, one bullet will come out. Another squeeze, one bullet will come out. Then slide action type, this is a type of firearms that this is done in the slide action type. Then bolt action type by manipulation of the bolt. Then lever type or brake type. So these are types of firearms according to mechanical construction. So these are parts of the handgun. Okay, if we are going to differentiate between the two, the pistols and revolver, the pistol has a magazine feed. The bullet or the ammunitions are placed in the magazine. In the revolver, it has a revolving cylinder. Serve as the magazine. If you are going to observe the illustration, the muzzle is the tip of the barrel. The muzzle is the tip of the barrel. Both of these handguns, the inside structure of the barrel of these handguns, the pistols and revolvers, has lands and grooves. Therefore, there are lands and grooves inside the barrel of the gun. When the bullet will come out from the muzzle of the gun and this remains at the crime scene, it is expected that there are scratches or striations caused by the lands and grooves inside the barrel of the gun, because the barrel of this handgun, the pistols and revolvers, are not plain, unlike in shotgun. That is why when the bullet will come out from the barrel of the gun, they will be expecting that there are striations or scratches caused by the lands and grooves. And this will serve as an evidence. This is going to be collected at the crime scene. This is going to be preserved. When the course of the investigation, the suspect is arrested, as well as together with the suspected firearm. The suspected firearm is going to be testified through the bullet recovery box, and this is going to be compared. This is going to be examined by the ballistics examiner to find out whether the scratches or striations of the fired bullets recovered at the crime scene match with the striations or scratches of the test bullet from the suspected firearm. There are advantages and disadvantages of pistols and revolvers. So what are those advantages and disadvantages? Okay. Pistol advantages, it is an old standard weapon that is easy to operate, hence almost everyone knows to handle it. So for the revolver, standard weapon, easy to operate. Number two, safer for experienced users to handle and carry than automatic pistol. So it is safe to handle this kind of revolver, the firearm, revolver. Safer for inexperienced users to handle and carry than automatic pistol. Then number three, its mechanism allows the trigger pull to be better than an average automatic pistol. Then a misfire does not put a revolver out of action. What does it mean? So it means that when you're using a revolver, when you squeeze the trigger and did not fire, the next squeeze will be fired. Or the next squeeze of that is very dangerous. Unlike in pistol, one squeeze, when you squeeze the trigger and cannot fire, it means that you cannot continuously squeeze the trigger because the ammunition is stuck up and cannot be fired anymore. It is necessary for you to remove the ammunition, the misfired ammunition. Whereas in the revolver, when you squeeze the trigger, it does not fire, then the next squeeze is very dangerous. So misfire does not put a revolver out of action, then it will handle satisfactorily old or new or partly deteriorated ammunition, which gives a reduced velocity and would jam an average automatic pistol. So these are the advantages of the revolver. Pistol advantages. So for the pistol, it has a better grip. The hand points naturally. So it's very true. It is more compact with the same firing power. 3, it is easier to load in comparison to that of the revolver. That is very true. It is easy to load. Why? Because this is magazine type. In case of worn out or corroded barrel, new one can be put in little expense without sending the gun to the factory. What does it mean? If the barrel is defective, you can easily replace the barrel even without going to the gun factory. Huh? It gives greater number of shots than a revolver. Greater number of shots. Huh? Because the revolver is limited only to 5 or 6. But in regards to a pistol, it gives greater number of shots than a revolver. It is easier to clean than a revolver. So easy to clean. Easy to clean as compared to the revolver. And it gives greater firing power and greater cases of firing. And there is no gas leakage in its operation. Why? Because the ammunition is placed inside the chamber. There is no gas leakage. Unlike in the pistol, there is gas leakage because this is placed, the ammunition is placed only in the revolving cylinder. Disadvantages of the revolver: it is more bulky to carry than automatic pistol. So it's very big compared to automatic pistol. Number 2, its grip or handle is generally not as good as that of pistol. It is slower to load. It is very true. It is slower compared to the so-called pistol. It is harder to replace worn out or broken part. It is a factory defect, so it is harder. So if barrel needs to be replaced, so you can go to the factory. Because the barrel of this revolver is, cannot be detached, unlike the so-called, the pistol. Easy to replace the barrel, whereas in the revolver, it is not easy to replace the barrel because this is intact with the frame. Then it is hard to clean. It is very true. It's hard to clean. The worn out or poorly made weapon is subject to variable accuracy due to improper lining of the cylinder. Then there's advantages of pistols. Ammunition must be perfect, otherwise a jam might be experienced. So that's why ammunition must be perfect. If one ammunition is defective, that stops the operation of the so-called firing action. A misfire stops the functioning of the gun. It's very true. If one ammunition does not fire, this stops the functioning of the gun. Number 3, when kept loaded for a long time, the magazine spring is under tension and may deteriorate and cause problem. So, when kept loaded for a long time, the magazine will under tension or will become weak. That is why it is advisable that the magazine is going to be removed when not in use. It cannot use blank or reduced loads. It has poor trigger pull. The magazine requires jacketed bullet, which is not good for practical use. Then more dangerous to handle and fire. So this is dangerous to handle and fire as compared to the revolver. It is not adapted to reloading. Then its mechanism ejects empty shells towards the face of the shooter, causing flinching. So that ejects the empty shells. So when you fire the gun, that ejects the empty shells. This is different from revolver because when you fire the gun, the empty shells still remain inside the cylinder. In pistol, that can be ejected towards the face of the shooter, causing flinching. Then it throws out empty shells on the ground to remain as evidence. It cannot be fired from the pocket without jamming. So these are the disadvantages of pistols. Let us now move on the nomenclature of firearms and its functions. So there are nomenclatures of firearms, okay, such as barrel. So what's barrel? What is this all about? The passageway of the bullet. So the barrel, the passageway of the bullet, it insists the motion of the bullet. The bolt, this engages in the center pin to allow opening of cylinder of black hammer. Number 3, center pin serves as locking device for the cylinder. Number 4, center pin spring holds the center pin in a lock position. Number 5, chamber, that part of the firearm in which the cartridge is placed when ready to be fired. Okay, so the part of this chamber, part of the firearm in which the cartridge is placed. In the case of pistol, the chamber is located inside. Whereas in revolver, the chamber, the revolving cylinder serves as the chamber. The cylinder serves as the chamber and magazine for a revolver. The cylinder nuts helps hold cylinder in place and align for ready firing. Cylinder stops and hold the cylinder in alignment for firing. Then double action sear built into weapon to allow double action firing. Then extractor pulls empty shells from the cylinder simultaneously. So the extractor that extracted the empty shells simultaneously. The frame houses the internal parts of the firearm. So the frame, whether pistol, revolver, the frame that houses the internal parts of the firearm. The handle rotates the cylinder with the hammer is locked. Okay. Then hammer strikes the blow and initiates the ignition of the primer. So the hammer that strikes the blow in initiating, igniting the primer in order for them to explode. The hammer block safety device that prevents hammer blows to the primer. Then mainspring provides energy to the hammer to activate firing mechanism. Then ratchet means help in the withdrawal of the cartridge or shells from the chamber of the cylinder. Then rebound slide, return trigger activates hammer block and lock hammer. Side plate provides access to the internal parts. Then side plate screws hold the side plate and yoke in place. Then strain screws control tensions on the mainspring. Then thumb locks actuates the necessary to fire the weapon. Then trigger activates the parts necessary to fire the weapon. So these are the nomenclature on. Another is trigger guard. The guards that trigger to unnecessary action to avoid accidental firing. That's why trigger guard is visible. Trigger spring provides energy for return, movement, or rebound slide. Then trigger level, contact, rebound slide to return trigger forward. Then trigger stop prevents excessive rearward movement after hammer release. Yoke pivot connection between frame and the cylinder. Then there are, lastly, the miscellaneous types of guns, shift guns. This type of gun generally used this is type of gun referring to homemade gun used by the juvenile delinquents in the United States of America. So in the Philippines, referring this to the Baltic firearm. Cane gun, knife, pistol, cell phone gun. So these are type of gun which resembles other than firearms. Flare gun, this is a gun. This is designed for sending messages to the enemy. So firing a gun, especially at night time, they will cause visible light that the enemies can be visible. Gas gun, these are generally referring to gun designed for firing tear gas, used for firing tear gas. Then harpoon gun, this is a type of gun, spear gun, used in hunting fish. Then liberator gun, this is used in Europe for firearms, which is used in caliber 44 firearms or 45 firearms. Then multi-barrel shotgun, so meaning a gun which has 2 or more barrel, okay, multi-barrel gun. Then paradox gun, type of gun that has lance and grooves a few inches from the muzzle point. Then tool gun, this is a kind of gun used in construction. Then trap gun, this is a gun used for trapping animals. So that ends our topic for this afternoon. So this afternoon we discuss the different types of evolution of firearms. Okay, so the evolution of firearms discusses the different personalities, the persons behind firearms. Okay, then the important dates in firearms history. Then discuss also about firearms, its nature and characteristics. There we discuss about the definition of firearms, legal definition, as well as the technical definition. So the technical definition is more on a definition. It's the real definition of firearms, whereas the legal definition is more of an enumeration rather than a definition. And the different types of classification of firearms according to the interior barrel construction, according to the so-called projectile propelled from the firearm. So that ends the topic for this afternoon. Okay, so